Hello, hello, hello. How's it going out there? Hope everybody is all right. Want to welcome everyone to another episode of Mannimal Research. We had Walls with us, as I announced last week. Walls was going to be coming on, and we had a little bit of technical difficulty. Looks like we lost him, but he is back. There he is. Where'd you go, man?
Power outage.
Yeah. Blame it on the power, man. That's real professional.
Man, power went out.
Yeah, we just now went live. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I've been doing my training and stuff, so getting better so I can chase down a Bigfoot.
Well, you're already the craziest one in the group, so if you want that responsibility, then I'm sure we can all let you have it, man. That's fine.
That'll work. I can take that.
What's been going on with you, buddy? I announced last week. We talked about the departure of our other host, and made the announcement that you were going to be taking over those responsibilities, and not only with the group, but also in helping me host the show. So glad to have you, man. I know other people are going to be happy to see you. You've done this before. You're not new at it. You know what you're doing, and glad to have your help, man. I really am.
I appreciate it. Now, I hate to see him go, but I mean, it was his choosing, and that's you're gonna have to back him 100%. That's what we want to do, and more power to him. That's basically
it. That's all we're gonna say about it, man. Wish everybody well. Do their own thing. We're gonna continue to do our thing, and just grow from here. Yep. Well, buddy, I know that you didn't get a chance to make the conference, the Smoky Mountain Conference.
No,
I haven't seen you up there, man. That was an awesome time. I got to eat lunch with John and Jimmy. Actually, we went to lunch the day of the conference. Got to talk Bigfoot with them for about an hour or so. So that was fun, man. We missed you.
Yeah, circumstances, my bills and everything else kind of come up, and it kind of hit pretty hard, so I wouldn't be able to get some.
And Bill's got to come first.
I've been trying to find a cabin up there, but everything was pretty much sold out. Everybody's getting out to the woods. Everybody's going out. I mean, they're getting away from everybody.
It was crazy busy up there, man. But we had a good time. I'm sure some of our regulars remember Mr. Ken Gerard. We had him on the show a couple weeks ago, and got a chance to meet him. There's me and Ken. I could be lying about it because of our face mask, but I promise it's me and him. I bought one of Ken's books, and he autographed it for me, and I got a chance to thank him in person for coming on the show. Ken, just as cool as he was on the show, he's that cool in person, and I appreciate him coming on.
Well,
so awesome. That was fun. We got me and my boy there.
Which one? Oh, wait a minute, he's bigger than you.
That's my boy. That's my boy in the middle. That's Bigfoot on the left.
Oh, okay, all right. Did you happen to check out the Beyond the Lens place?
No, didn't get a chance to get over there, man. We were busy, man. We were packed. We had stuff going on all weekend, man.
Dude, if you go again, go check that place out.
I know you've told me several times go check it out, and I wanted to. I just didn't get a chance. But I'll show a few more pictures before we get started. That's my boy and his wife, my daughter-in-law. They are expecting, about to make me a granddaddy. I don't know why the heck they're doing that, but they are. And that is me and my daughter. So yeah, we had a good time. And the coolest thing that happened.
Wait a minute now.
What's up?
I thought you only have boys. I didn't know you had a daughter.
Yeah. I have for
19, what in the world?
See, 19 years now.
See, you're holding things out. See there.
I know she's way too pretty to be mine, but I promise she is. But like I said, the coolest thing that happened while I was talking to Ken Gerard, my boy Christopher and his wife Jessica and my daughter Sydney, they stood in line to talk to Bobo, and that line was forever long to get to see him. But my boy's a big fan, so he finally got to get up there to meet him, and there they are. And they talked for several minutes like they was old friends. Bobo signed a couple things for him, and right as my son Christopher was getting ready to leave, he reached in his pocket and he grabbed one of my business cards, and he handed it to me. He said, "Here, I almost forgot. My dad runs a research group here out of Southeast Tennessee. They've been getting some pretty cool stuff. They've got some thermal images and stuff like that." And he said Bobo got really excited and said, "Where is he?" And he started looking around, looking for me. He said, "I want to talk to him. When it thins out around here, y'all come back and find me because I'd like to talk to him." And he got the business card and he wrote down Chris's dad on the business card. So maybe he'll reach out to me. Unfortunately, things got so caught up and things got so busy with him and with us, I wasn't able to get over there to talk to him. And it was crazy around there, but I regret not getting to talk to him. But it was pretty exciting. Maybe he'll reach out to us. Maybe we can get Bobo on the show. Who knows?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And I know I got a little secret I've been holding from you. But when we end of the night, I'm gonna reveal it to you. I'm not gonna reveal it to anybody yet, but I've got some pretty big deal thing for you. Something that we need to get sent off to get checked out. So
you want to tell me after the show?
Yeah, I'll tell you after the show, and then once we actually find out the full results and everything, and whatever we can figure it, if we find out collusive what happened, we'll infill our fans and let them know. But this is, dude, it was like a bombshell to me when my buddy told me about it. So I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, so man, this has to be fairly new because me and you talk about it every day, and you ain't told me about it yet. So
I know that it's been hard for me to say anything.
Yeah, man, we'll definitely talk after the show. One more thing, I want to give a shout out. It's a long story. It's personal story, so I won't get into it too much. But I have a niece that is just turned 18 years old this past weekend. Her name is Leela. And I got to meet her for the first time. She came down to Gatlinburg, and we've been talking for a few years now, and finally got the chance to meet her. There she is. And I just want to give a shout out to my niece Leela. I met her and her mom Christina. We had breakfast that morning, spent some time together, and had a good time. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Leela.
Awesome. I'm looking at. I'm actually making a comment, to everybody. Because I have to use my phone to comment and respond to the fans there.
All right. Well, we will go ahead and talk a little bit about tonight's guest. Tonight we have Mr. Marshall Krasser. Marshall's been he's been dealing or having encounters and interested in the subject since 1974. Marshall does visual effects in Hollywood. He has done some movies that every one of us have heard of. He has been on Forrest Gump. That was the first movie he ever worked on. Did visual effects for Forrest Gump. He did Twister. Did Casper. He mentioned a few more, but those are the only ones that I wrote down. Might get him to list some more when he comes on. But yeah, so that's cool. That's cool in itself right there. But Marshall's been interested in the subject, like I said, since 1974 when he had his first encounter. He's living up in British Columbia, Canada right now. He's got a cabin that he's working on up there, and they've been getting some interesting stuff. And he's got a little side project that he's working on. Go ahead and bring that up so people, if they want to go check it out, if you go on YouTube and search Quatch Trek, you guys can get a sneak peek at what he's working on. Guys, do us a favor, go over there and do that for us. And we got a little ahead of ourselves. Tonight, like always, guys, I forgot to mention it. Hit that subscribe button. If you don't mind, run over to MannimalResearch.com and hit us up there. We've actually taken a few more leads, a few more encounters this week from the website. So I appreciate that. But yeah, man, if you're ready, we will. Well, first of all, let me say hi to Mr. Nick Zink. He's one of those that reached out to me just today and is talking about doing some research out in North Carolina or South Carolina. And yeah, Nick and I have been talking, and I think we're gonna hook up before long and get out in the woods together and see what we can't find. So I wanted to say hey to Nick.
Cool. That's awesome.
All right, man. If you're ready, we will bring Mr. Marshall on.
Yeah, let's bring him on.
There he is. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Like I said, a little bit of a heat wave up here in Canada. Nobody told me it got hot when I moved up, but it's it's
before the show. Marshall was talking about a heat wave up in Canada. Said it got up to 85 degrees. Man, it's been 97 around here.
Yeah,
It's
one of those things. The thing is, moving north here, it really makes a difference. I mean, where the sun comes up and where it sets. Basically, you see it almost do a full circle. We're not far enough north to get the 24 hours of sunshine, but it'll get mainly dark here at about 11, and sun sometimes starts coming up around 3:30 in the morning. So, kind of learn to block out the light in the bedroom so you don't wake up by it.
Yeah, Marshall, I mentioned a few of your movies that you had worked on: Forrest Gump, Twister, and Casper. What's a few more that you worked on?
Yeah, so I actually I did work on the Star Wars, the special editions when they came out. So The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Did some of that rework. I got a list here. It's like Casper, Jumanji, Twister, Mission Impossible, Dragonheart, Daylight, Speed 2, Titanic, Small Soldiers, Snake Eyes, The Mummy, Wild Wild West, Galaxy Quest, The Perfect Storm, Pearl Harbor, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Hulk, Van Helsing, Lemony Snicket, Lady in the Water, Evan Almighty, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Star Trek, Avatar, Iron Man 2, Battleship, Great Gatsby, 300, Black Cat, Mordecai.
That's very, very impressive, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, but the problem that comes along with that is that my buddy and I, who he owns property now. I bought the property next to him up here in BC. It's about 6 hours from here, and give you an idea like how remote it is to get to it. We have about 30 miles of a Forest Service road to get to it. So I've got trail cameras up. I get pictures of moose, property, elk, deer, bear. Further up the road, we got some wolverines. Also got wolves. So it's pretty desolate, pretty remote. It's a valley that there's not a lot of people that live in, and there again, to get there, it takes me an hour to get up that road. Not driving really fast. There's a lot of logging going on up in there too. But that's kind of where a lot of my focus has been here.
Since you brought up the trail cam, do this a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and show a picture that I thought was really interesting. It's actually 3 pictures, but we're going to be focusing on the one in the mirror in the middle. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this trail camera was set up. I was up moose hunting, and had set up along just below me right here near the road is a spring. So I set the camera up there looking down valley, and so behind me it's a pretty steep valley that it actually goes up to a mountain that's about 9,000 feet in elevation. And this is a little ravine. So I'm looking down. I'm 5'6". It gives you an idea of my height. I'm looking down because the terrain there is boulders and it's very uneven. So I just can't walk up to it and deal with it. I have to really watch where I put my feet. So this camera was set to trigger a 3 burst. And as you guys know how those trail cameras work, the minute it detects motion, it wakes up, it does a metering to set whether it set the exposure. And if you see here, it's an overexposed image for the background because the top one is like I said, that's a normal exposure. So whatever it was passed right in front of the camera, and in less than a second. So some people said, oh, well, maybe it was a bear, and I'm like, okay, you don't quite understand the height of this because, like I said, the camera was up a little bit from me, so we're talking, it's close to 6 foot in height. And whatever it was, like I said, nothing approaching it. I got this one. The middle one was blank. And then this third one has that little bit of fur or something in the upper left-hand corner. So that up there again, the upper left-hand corner is going to be something that's 6 feet high. So I just have a hard time necessarily saying definitively what it is.
Yeah, it looks to me, and Waz, you weigh in too, but it looks to me like the side of an arm. And if it's 6 foot off the ground, unless that bear is huge and walking upright, you wouldn't have picked anything up.
I wouldn't have picked it up. And that's the thing. It's like I'm not on a tree, I'm on a stump. So it wasn't like the bear was reaching up above me or anything. There wasn't something up there. It was like right at the kind of the top of the stump. So the only thing I could figure out was that it was coming down. And then there again, I think the date on this, it was what, September, something like that. That's about when the salmon run starts. Now, from this camera here, if you were to go about maybe 150 yards, you're on a salmon river. And the salmon, like I said, would have been coming down. And you know, I kind of posted this over on, you know, the group there on Facebook just a little bit. I've been thinking because, you know, moose tend to go up high this time of year because of the bugs, at least up here, are pretty bad, mosquitoes. And they go up higher elevation, which kind of made sense. It's like, well, you know, if I'm a Sasquatch, I don't want to get all bit up by bugs. I would go up the same way. I mean, you know, they have that same natural instinct to kind of do what I would think makes sense. I mean, if you don't have to be down in the bugs, don't be down in the bugs. And then you come down in the fall whenever there's food ready. And then this valley, I've yet to really see any evidence of any winter activity. In fact, all of my cameras stop taking photos of animals usually in January. The snow this year, I think, hit about 6 feet in this valley. So it's something that I think a lot of animals just know it's too deep. I mean, they've got to get out of there. Even the moose, that's too deep for them. So they do move out. But that being said, I was talking to a lady who's, she said, I think it was her grandfather was a trapper in this valley back in the 30s. And midwinter, he came across a trail that was heading up one of the mountains in this area, not too far from where this camera was. She said he followed it as far as he could, but then it just got too steep and the snow too deep. But he, you know, as a trapper said, he had no idea what kind of animal that was. I mean, the trappers, they know it. I mean, they generally know any wildlife that's out there. So he just said he had no clue what it was.
So the camera, you set the camera up about close to 6 foot high?
Yeah, it's close to 6 foot.
Okay.
And
I was thinking, I was like, at first I'm thinking it could be the tail end of a bear, you know, his butt going by. But then if it's 6 foot high, and I'm like, I can see a long arm as a first swing, say it's coming, you know, how they walk, the arm's going back and then going up. And it looks like if you get that corner, maybe he raised his arm up to grab something, and it could be the end of the backside of his elbow.
That's the only thing I could figure. I mean, I did do some investigation with photos because, you know, I do a lot of photography as well. And when I was living in Singapore, went to the Singapore Zoo and took a lot of photos of the primates there. And I actually found, you know, this angle of the hair matched a primate photo that I had. And about the consistency, when I scaled it up, it's like, you know, because if you look at it, it's not bear fur. It's got a different consistency to it. And there again, like you said, I mean, you guys, you know, since I do visual effects, I've got my eye really trained to try to figure this out because, I mean, if someone wanted me to recreate something, I would have to go in and start analyzing and trying to break stuff down like this. But I mean, I remember, you know, when I got in the vehicle and checked this, I'm like, what the heck is this? And the guy standing in the vehicle on the top photo was one of the guys. He had a trap line there as well, but he was in a different area. And, you know, he had heard some sounds out there, I can't quite get him to open up totally about what all it was he's heard, but he just said, there's things going on you just can't explain. I mean, pretty much. But to rewind, for myself, when did it first start? I as a kid, I grew up in the Ozarks of Missouri, and my dad and my family would always, drag me out deer hunting. So I started, I got a picture of me about 5 years of age with my little BB gun and all my hunting gear on. So I spent a lot of times in the woods.
And Marshall, I got one of our fans on here. He asked a question about it. Papa Two Bears. I think he's isn't he up near Kansas there, Wayne? Papa Two Bears.
I'm not sure. I think he's around New York.
Can you put that question up for Marshall? If he can't, I don't know if he can see the comments. Can you see that, Marshall?
Yeah, I see that. The thing about it is that there were some kind of roots sticking out from the base of it as well. And when I say roots, it wasn't like something that would support weight. It's like it was an old tree that had been cut down and it had been underwashed a little bit. So what was there was like kind of pointed. So,
okay.
I've tried to figure that out. I get a lot of bears on my cameras, and so I'm kind of used to it. And most of the stuff, it's like, oh yeah, that's a squirrel tail. Oh yeah, I've had ones where the bird is just right up there looking at the camera. It's like,
do you happen? Do you possibly could have a like? Do you go back to your stuff of your pictures of your bears? Do you have anything similar to that, kind of like that, close to that you can see the hair pretty close and kind of visualize both of them?
That most of the bears, for the most part, I stay away from my cameras. I know a lot of people have had them chewed on and stuff, but okay. I tend to put them where they are not easily accessible. That is what the goal was. And the thing is, the camera, if it was up there rubbing, it would have bumped the camera. That's
True.
The strap was like the top of the stump was right here, and it was strapped like right here, and then the roots were kind of down below. So and there again, the roots aren't strong enough to carry any weight. Because when I went up there, I leaned on one of the roots and it snapped on me. So it's like it wasn't that a bear was walking up on the roots. It's a very Trust me, I've sat down and tried to work through all of this that I could. Now, I haven't put a camera back in that area because that fall, I got a guy that actually came down kind of the ravine there who was a logger, and he was marking out the cut block. So it was like they were going to freaking log it. But he says, you better place it. You better pull it out. Someone asked if it was strapped on or it was screws. It was strapped on. But the part of the thing was, I don't know. Like I said, that's got me just confused, and I really want to go back there. And like I said, that camera was set up, and it picked up 2 people up there. The 2 people it picked up was the trapper who works that area now. And then it was another First Nation group that was going up there to hunt. But that was the only 2 people that were up in that area. So it gives you an idea of the remoteness of it. It's pretty desolate in the time that's up there. But,
okay, yeah, I definitely thought that was a good picture. A really, really good trail cam pic. We don't get to look at a lot of them. A lot are good ones because it seems like for some reason, they avoid them somehow. It seems like, but that one seemed pretty good. But
and my thought on that one is that it was the backside of that stump, and if I'm coming down that little ravine right there, and I'm looking out, I'm looking at the road because it's focused on that. So it went by, and it didn't walk straight down the creek. That's the thing, because I was looking over the spring thinking, well, it's going to be someplace where they water. This thing kind of came along and skirted, And that's the bizarre thing, because the stump was like here, stump's here, and the camera was here. To this side over here was brush and stuff. So whatever it did kind of had to push through that brush. I mean, I didn't want to walk through it, but so something, I mean, when I say brush, it was trees and small trees and stuff like that. So it's not the path of least resistance. And I mean, we know animals, they'll pick up a trail and they'll walk a trail. I mean, up at the cabin, I cut a path to the backside of the property, and within 2 days of me cutting that and putting a trail camera up, I had deer walking down it. So, they move through it.
All right. Well, we're getting a little bit later start on it than we normally do, but I want to get into your encounters, Marshall.
Yeah.
You had you and I were talking. You had your first one when you were around 15 years old in 1974. I don't want to give away your age too much.
No, well, actually, yeah. So there was two things I know coming in that area. Actually, it would have been earlier. I was a little younger then, but it was around 74, 75. We were hunting down near Gainesville, Missouri, down in the Ozark Mountain. That's kind of in the southern central area. We were pretty close to the Arkansas border. But there was an old the homestead cabin we were going to stay in. So I remember it was the first time we'd been there. Mom had a convertible. I don't know how we got it down that forest road, but we did, and got in and got settled for the night in the old cabin. I mean, it was pretty rustic. It was early November. That's usually when the Missouri deer season is. So Dad had a fire going in the fireplace and everything, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, suddenly something started hitting the side of the cabin. It sounded like rocks being thrown at the cabin. Of course, freaked everybody out. My dad got up, had a flashlight, tried to shine it out through the one window that was in the door, couldn't see anything. It went on for a few minutes, and then it just kind of settled down for the rest of the night. But it was one of those things that my dad, got really kind of nervous about that. The next day we went out and looking around. Something had brushed up against the car, taken some of the dirt off the side of it. Dad was trying to say, "Oh, it must have been a deer," look in the car. It's like, okay, Dad, whatever. So the interesting thing is that we stopped hunting. That would have probably been, more around the 72 range, 1972. And then we started hunting it again, but we hunted the backside of the property. Like I said, this was, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 acres of land in the middle of kind of one of the forests up there. But the guys my dad hunted with would come in the back way. So we went up there and camp up there, and we didn't have any issues, but I still went, we went back towards the cabin, and I had built a tree stand there, and that's where kind of the second incident occurred. That would have been, a little later in the 70s. But yeah, I'm trying to look at my notes here. Yeah, I guess it was around 74, 75 when the cabin happened. But then around 1978, it was deer season there. It was like I was hunting the backside of the ridge above the old cabin, and I was 25 feet up in the tree stand overlooking this clearing that had a regrowth of about 5 feet of oak trees. And the weekend, that morning when I arrived, there was actually another hunter in my tree stand, and he was actually kind of hunting the property next to us. And he, we said, "Oh, well, we rebuilt it for my son." And he's like, "Oh, okay, no problem." He goes, "I've got another one down the hill. I'll go do that one." So he went down there, and he was up in the tree, his tree stand, and about 10 o'clock in the morning, shot a deer, and heard it go off. And so we walked down and met him, and yeah, he got a nice buck there, and all of that was pretty cool. So then it was the next day, the Sunday, I was up in my stand there again around the same time, and I noticed something running really quick kind of along the tree line. And it was moving about this rate here. And that tree line was, probably 150 yards from me. We were kind of poor. I didn't have binoculars. Didn't even have a scope. I mean, I just shot. I was hunting always with iron sights, so didn't have anything to just kind of look in and see what it was. But I got back and told everybody in the camp about it, and they all tried to say it was just a bear. And I'm like, well, it was kind of a, one of these reddish brown colors, but I said it was moving so fast. I said, I don't see how, and it was over the brush. Well, the next weekend we went back hunting, and I got a buck that time in that field, went out in the field and realized that the brush was about my height. So it was about 5 feet high. And that was across the whole field because I kind of walked down towards that tree line. So whatever it was would have been a couple of feet above 5 feet. So you're talking 7 or 8 feet in that area. So there again, at that point in time in the mid 70s, I mean, I think there had been a Momo movie that came out or something, Momo the Missouri Monster, and never really thought much about it. I didn't necessarily put two and two together. It wasn't until I started watching some of the other, investigative shows where they go into that, talking about it. So yeah, I kind of didn't hunt again until I moved to California. I moved to Northern California in about 87, and somewhere around 2003, I took I got into a little bit of gold prospecting, a little gold mining. Thought, yeah, I could go out and do some of this. Also do fly fishing. So I thought, okay, went out to this place called the Stanislaus National Forest, and that's past Groveland, California. You guys can look that up. That's in the Sierras, kind of on the basically the eastern side of California. Pretty rugged area up in there. I mean, there again, all I had at that point in time, didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, but my spidey sense just went crazy because I was down crawling around on the gravel of the riverbed, looking for gold and jade and all that other stuff. But I knew something was there. I just knew it, so I just kind of had to get out of there. And then the other place in California, we were up fishing on the Trinity River, and that's in Northern California. That was near Del Loma. So if you look that area up, it's as the crow flies, I've been told it's about 26 miles from Willow Creek, where the Patterson Clement film was shot. So as the crow flies, not too far away from there. Most of that had to do with I had to go out to the vehicle late at night. To get something out is around 11:30, and there again, spidey sense went up. Pulled out the flashlight, looked around, couldn't really see much. Just there again, there's a sense of something there, feeling it. Now, so all of that stuff has just been feelings. It's something that in my mind, that instinct is going. As it turns out, I guess, I am a little bit of an empath and can sometimes know things are going to happen before they do, which is great when you go to the casinos because I can usually pick slot machines. I don't know how I can pick the slot machines that'll hit, but I've done it numerous times. But I moved up to Vancouver in 2012 and ended up becoming a Canadian citizen a couple years ago. But in 2014, Buddy and I were salmon fishing over near the Kilby Provincial Park. The boat launched there in British Columbia, and ironically, it's about 2 miles from a place called the Sasquatch Inn. That area, just to let people know, it's near Harrison Hot Springs and Harrison Lake. If you guys do any reading and want to research up on that area, you'll find out the First Nations in that region are pretty much the people who came up with the term Sasquatch. It's derived from their native language, and they have had, I guess, numerous kind of dealings with him over the years. And our guide, our First Nations guide, who was taking us fishing, we went in his boat across, is someone who's had grew up in that area. But after a couple of hours of fishing, we heard this loud roaring screeching from across the confluence. It's where the Harrison, if you were to look, where the Harrison comes down and meets the Fraser River. kind of get an idea. Like I said, if you guys do any research on, just read up on Harrison sightings, and that'll tell you. I mean, they got Sasquatch provincial parks right there, so it gives you an idea. You know, there's had been a lot of activity, but this roaring started happening. Our guide dropped his rod and reel, just dropped it in the river. Didn't set it down, just dropped it, ran back to his boat, grabbed his binoculars, and started glassing the far shore. And I'm like, kind of looking at him like, hey, well, what do you think that is? What's making that noise? You know? And there again, you know, not really thinking. I mean, now I've got my camera, my phone with me. I would have pulled it out. I would have recorded the sound. I mean, I've educated myself a lot now to always have something to record with. And the phones are great for that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it went on for a few minutes. He tried
You said that it was a roaring? Is that what you said?
It was like this roar. It was a guttural sound. I can't even kind of reproduce it, but I have done a lot of research because I you know, I'm one of these people that really want to know what the thing is. And I take it, you know, very seriously when I hear stuff like that. So I've done a lot of online YouTube researching for sounds. I mean, there's some stuff that gets close. Like I've looked at injured bears, you know, I've looked at injured moose, injured cougars. And I mean, you know, we've all listened to the lynx going at each other that sounds like a woman screaming. You know, so I kind of get myself familiar with that, and I've yet to find anything. I mean, the thing that came closest was some primate sounds that I had kind of came across. So a little bit of the, you know, not quite the gorilla, but it sounds like somewhere between if you were to mix a chimpanzee, a gorilla, and orangutan. I mean, somewhere in that sound. It was such a low voice thing. That was the thing. It was so low and just primal. And that's there again. It was salmon season. That's the confluence. That's where critters are going to come down to eat if they're going to, you know, be looking for stuff. But you know, he was pretty shaky. He tried, like I said, to say it was a wild boar, and I'm like, I've hunted wild boar. That's not like any wild boar I've heard. So you know, he kind of clammed up for a while, and later, once we got to knowing, and I started talking about some of the, you know, things that had happened to me, he kind of opened up and said that his uncle had some incidents a few years back, but he just would refuse to discuss them with the family. So some of that could be the First Nations feeling about them, because he's part of, I think, the Salish tribe, Salish, the Salish tribe.
So your guide was a part of the First Nations?
Yeah.
That says a lot right there. That it got his attention enough that he dropped his rod and went to investigate it. You know, because you know those guys, they're familiar with these things, and I think that speaks a lot to what he might have thought it was.
Yeah, and like I said, he got a little cagey, but then once he got to know me, he like I said, he opened up a little bit about his uncle and some of that, because I know there's a lot of this land is still First Nations land, and you know, it's not really open, so to speak, to the general public in some of those areas. But they've had documented stories and contacts back in this whole area. I mean, even up the Fraser River at some point in time, they talked a little bit about you know, finding a creature up on the railroad, and they basically had captured it and said it was a hairy kind of animal, and I think somehow it's like it got loose and they couldn't find it anymore. But it's definitely, this region here is something that has a lot. Then the next one, I think, was later that year. It was kind of in the first part of November. I went up hunting near a place called Loon Lake, BC. We were staying at this place called like the White Moose Resort Campground, but we were hunting about an hour by vehicle away and kind of some of the remote backwoods. And been out there and had shot a grouse the day before, and in this particular area, and we got back to camp, and my hunting buddy said his spare magazine had fallen out of his rifle. He didn't know where it was. So we said, well, that's not good. I said, well, the only place we really got out and was looking around more than anything, I mean, when was the last time? And it was kind of around the grouse. So we went back the next day, took the hour drive or so to get over there. Went to the area where the grouse was, but it was really strange because I left the grouse on the ground when I skinned it out. So mainly with the grouse, you just basically put your feet on either side of the wing and you pull up with the feet, and it pulls out the breasts and the legs and everything else, leaves the guts behind. It's like the easiest thing to field dress. But when I got back, all of that stuff that had been on the ground was scattered up around bushes that were about 4 or 5 feet tall. And which was a little strange to me. Didn't think much about it at that time. But we looked around. His magazine wasn't there. Which was our feeling was that's the only place that could have fallen out. So there again, did something pick it up? I mean, I heard they pick up objects. I mean, that's a possibility. So
you never found the magazine?
Never found the magazine there. So, it's just really hard to say where that exactly would have gone. I mean, like I said, that made the most logical sense. Because he's an older gentleman, he's in his 70s, and so he's not very mobile. So we were doing more road hunting than anything at that particular time, kind of scouting out the area. And up here, it's okay. If you're on a Forest Service road, you're okay to shoot from the road, across the road, whatever, because you're back in the wilderness. I mean, it's unlike in the States, you can't really do that. You have to stay back. But these, if there's no center line painted on the road, usually you are able to shoot off the road or across the road or on the road. But I said to him, because I had this, I shot it with I bought a brand new over under at 22-410, and I had missed it with the 22 as a single shot, missed it, so flipped it over to the 410, and that's what I got the grouse with. But I said I want to just double check the sighting, so I said there's this little clearing right up here, so we just left the vehicle where it was, walked up to the clearing. I set up a little target. It's a single shot, so it was like pop, pop, and then off in the woods we hear whack, whack, and I'm like, I turned around to Hank and I'm like, what was that? And he's like, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders. He goes, I have no idea. He's originally from he's a Danish import, moved to Canada, about 50 years ago, but done a lot of hunting up here. He had no clue what it was. Didn't see another vehicle or hunter that day anywhere near us. Some people say,
think it was maybe a tree knock? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm thinking it was definitely a tree knock, and it was in response to me firing. Someone says, "Oh, well, maybe you heard an echo," and I'm like, "You can't speed up an echo because my timing between my two shots was enough to where it's pop, open it up, put another 22 in, and pop, and this was immediately a pop, pop." It was definitely wood on wood, not a windy day, not a cloud in the sky. It wasn't a falling tree. So that was a very bizarre case, I would say. There again, potential Bigfoot. I said start putting things together at this point in time. Now, unfortunately, I went into the Google Earth, looked at the 3 satellite maps of that area. I don't know. There was a huge fire here called the Elephant Hill Fire in 2007, and it burnt that area bad. I mean, to where they wouldn't even let you hunt in there, or even go in quads. So, if it was there, I hope it vacated out. I mean, in time, but it's been pretty decimated. So I've not actually been in there since the fire. So that's been 3 years ago. We'll kind of have to see what happens. So then going on to 2017, here we are up by the cabin now, my buddy's cabin. And we're the last human habitation, last private property in that valley. From there, it's roughly another 78 miles or so to the head of the valley. So it's pretty much encompassed by mountains that reach up to 10,000 feet. and there's glaciers on those on top of some of those mountains that basically feeds the river. And like I said, today it's still known for its remoteness, and very few people. In fact, the indigenous people did not really even go up into that area just because it was so hard to get to. The logging trucks and the roads they carved, you can get up there, but it's very, very difficult. So we usually take our firearms up there, and we do have a little bush range, and we do some shooting up there. So we were up there shooting, and there again, this is 2017 when I had my drawing for a moose hunt. So I said, I want to put a camera over here by this lake. And he's like, what lake? I said, well, there's a lake right near the river, so I'm going to go out there. We went over there, stopped, and walked down it. Maybe from the road to the lake is maybe 20 yards. 30 yards. You can't really see it because it's all pretty brushy. And it does drop down a little bit, but there's a huge game trail that goes through there. So I call this area now kind of the pinch point, because you got a lake and you got a trail, you got a road, and then you got a drop off to the river over here. So anything traveling on that side of the river is going to go through this area. So I'm putting the camera up. He's going over to take a piss in the lake. So he's standing along the edge of the lake, just taking a piss. And I'm behind him because I'm, like I said, breaking down brush that would trigger the motion the motion cameras. And then off to our left, we hear a ka-whack. It was, a wood knock. I mean, he said, I didn't look, I wasn't there, but he claimed he stopped peeing midstream. Just Pius interruptus.
And that's pretty painful.
Yeah, that's pretty painful. He said it just immediately dried up, but he's over 6 foot tall. And he said, he goes, what the hell was that? And I said, I don't do. I said, our firearms are in the truck. I said, I got the trail camera set up. Let's get out of here. So we got out of there. And so that's set up for the winter. And that's where I did send you that one photo of something floating. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up here in just a minute. If you're ready to talk about it, we can go ahead and show it.
Yeah, you can pull that up.
Okay, because this is very interesting. I have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah. So you can see this was the end of December. I've got pictures of deer, and the crazy thing about this camera, most of the deer that I always capture on here are running. So something is spooking them in that area. I mean, this is, like I said, where we've heard this wood knock. The next year, I can tell you more about that story in a second. But this here is about 4 feet off the ground, the base of it. I mean, I've looked at it. I'm trying to think, am I looking at the butt of a deer running away? I don't know.
You can see through it in parts.
Yeah, which could be, there again, it could be with cameras, with depending upon what the exposure set at, you get smeariness, you get some of that stuff. So I just can't quite put my finger on what this is.
It looks like an apparition to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and like I said, so this came up the next spring. We went back to the same area. We'd been shooting our guns over at the range, and came over to check the camera. And this time there were 3 of us, and we were setting. I'd already pulled I pulled the card out while I'm there and put a new card in and change the batteries. I don't try to do field analysis at that point in time. But
when you're talking about when you say you see smearing, usually does that not make the camera look blurry if there's smearing on it?
The blurriness you see is what they call motion blur. So if something moves the hand, you see if I move my hand, how it smears through. That's what we call motion blur. So there's definitely motion blur in this. So whatever this is in motion. But the strange thing is that there was just this one photo, and when I compared some before and afters with the snow, I didn't see any change in the tracks. And that's there again. That's something that kind of gets me.
And you didn't see it, and it wasn't in any other photos, right?
Just this one. And that's what was really crazy about that. I just don't know what it is.
In that area, is that what area was that at?
That's what I call the pinch point. So that's where we had the wood knocks happen. The next year when we went in there after at the rifle range, this time we were standing in the lake, and to our right-hand side, it sounded like just a huge rock slam. So it's like if you were to pick up a big rock and just pick it up and just slam it down as hard as you could. I mean, we actually felt the ground vibrate a little bit because the stuff we were standing on is a little marshy there. But it's so brushy, we couldn't see anything. Didn't hear anything run off. Didn't hear anything take off. I know there's moose in that area. Someone said, well, maybe it was a moose that jumped back and took off, but I think we would have heard something else. It wasn't a tree branch falling or a tree falling. I mean, I've heard that on my property all the time.
Now, if it was, I'm sure you caught last week's episode, and I know a lot of our loyals caught it too, but last couple of weeks, we've had Ken and Rachel King on. They're out in Arkansas. And I shared this image that Ken sent me, and I just want to share it and then share yours again to look at the similarities. Let's have a look. You see that?
Yeah.
That happened in his place down in Arkansas. He caught stuff, and he catches stuff like that quite often. He sees stuff like that quite often. And he is near, if I remember correctly, and they're on here watching tonight, they can correct me. There is a cemetery out somewhere on their property. Not saying it's a ghost or an apparition or anything like that, but it looks awful similar to that, in my opinion. What do y'all think?
Well, you had I just looked it up. What? Crap, where'd it go? Poppy put it up there. Where did he? Well, where did it go? It went off. He made a comment just a minute ago. Oh, there we go.
Out of Wendigo?
Yeah, and I just looked it up, and it shows United States, Canada, legendary creature kind of type thing.
Um,
Are you familiar with those, Marshall?
I'm gonna be Googling it right now. Well, after this,
what I did, he said that up north they might call that a Wendigo. Natives know about them, and it does say about the native on here. Says the national. I'm gonna mess this name up. I already know. Algonquin tribes, based in the northern forest of Nova Scotia and the east coast of Canada, the Great Lakes region of Canada, and Wisconsin, United States.
Well, I know this area here has definitely there's something going on there. I mean, because like I said, I've got a lot of the wildlife I have are busting through that area running. And I'm like, well, why? I mean, unless you're scared of something. So that's kind of leading me to think this is the hot spot. So what we're doing, I mean, part of what I was going to talk about, we're, this incident there and some other stuff going on, my buddy and I, who has the property next, we're going to do what we're calling a quatch trek. So we're going to go out. We're gathering all of our equipment. We've done a preliminary run of it now, basically with handhelds and body cams and stuff like that in this area. So we started, right here where this sound emanated from. The water level was pretty low. So we were able to get out along the lake bed, and we found these footprints that my buddy Keegan, and I've got footage of this. I just need to get him to edit it. He's a little busy right now, but we're going to put that up on Quatch Trek when we see it. But he basically stepped him out, like he's 6 foot, something like that, and he couldn't match the stride of what we saw. And if I put my boot up next to it, I mean, it's like a size 10 hunting boot, so it's pretty big. It was about that size. It was pretty deep down into the kind of the muck along the top like this. And the thing is, it was in a straight line. So it's not like it didn't feel like it was a moose. It definitely seemed like it was a bipedal locomotion through that area. I mean, we saw some other moose track. I mean, there was a lot of moose piles around, so we definitely know they're in there. And in fact, so in part of the trek, when we did that, we came around, we found a lot of cougar tracks and everything, and then we cut up and we came across an old moose kill from probably this winter. The moose, we found the jawbone of it and the scapulas, and everything was pretty scattered. So either that was a wolf that got into it or something, but it was very thick brush. The hair was kind of scattered over the whole region. But
up there, Marshall, with all that animal activity, and I know you said something out there about a lynx screaming like a woman, a bloody scream. Have you heard anything? And Wayne can vouch. He had this happen to him on a camping route. Had something similar as that, and it came off as sounding like a laughing hyena in a way. Have you heard anything kind of like that up there?
I've not. I think they kind of stay away from the cabin area, because this is about 2 miles down the road where this all happened. So either they're staying away. I mean, I do have motion sensor lights up on the property and stuff. So I've not heard anything specifically. Part of what we'll do on this Squatch trek that we do, Keegan's going to go. Keegan was there with the lake with me twice when we had those sounds. The other guy we're bringing he's an ex-Navy combat diver who's never had any encounters. He's the skeptic. He's the kind of the guy who's going to keep us grounded, but he's also got some good survival skills. Being a ex-sniper and stuff like that. He was telling us some of the training he's gone through with the Canadian Army and stuff. But so we're going to go up and do some snooping around kind of up this side valley, because talking to some people there again on one of the Facebook groups, there's a BC kind of a Bigfoot group, that the other end of that valley, which is about 30 miles away, one of the guys there has had a lot of vocalizations, wood knocks and stuff at the other end of that valley. So part of me thinks this is kind of their highway through. This is how they'll come over here for the spring, go high for the summer, then come back down. And then when wintertime comes, they travel through that valley to get over to where it's lower elevation, less snowfall. So that's kind of like, I do a lot of my kind of research, since I'm a computer geek, I do a lot with Google Earth, the 3D stuff, and I move through, and I basically, that's how I found this lake. That's how I determined there was a pinch point there. That's how I do my scouting. I mean, like I said, unfortunately with my job, I have to right now, be in a big city, but with the new COVID way, I've been working at home, and if I could get a satellite Wi-Fi up there, I'd be up at the cabin working. I could get power.
That's how I do it when I'm out there. I always look at the GPS and see where we're at.
Yeah.
If there's enough signal and pinpoint like, hey, okay, we got a trail over this side over here.
Yeah, no, that's the way to do it. You scout it out, you look at it. And so we've kind of determined this route that we're going to go and do it. And I'm going to try to spread this over a 3 days and record everything. But
now, are you guys looking to make what exactly is Squatch Trek? I mean, are you guys looking to make a documentary, or is it going to be a YouTube channel where you upload new episodes, or what exactly are you hoping this is going to be?
The thing is, it's we want to take people along with us on our trek, our treks. So I think we're going to see how this first one goes. The idea is that we would, if it goes well, and we would continue to do that. But the idea is, I think there's a lot of people out there who want to get involved. And I mean, if you listen to our little promo, I mean, I have issues. I have big issues with some of these documentaries that are online or shows. They're highly scripted. I mean, I work with producers every day. Producers make up stories. They like to put drama into there. I have a really hard time watching them because I know what is going on there. It's the same way if you watch a lot of the other shows, like, a good show to watch. I don't know if you've seen it. Is called Alone.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys go back in the wilderness. But stuff like that I can deal with because it's not scripted as much. But a lot of the Bigfoot shows I think are just overproduced. I mean, they're pushing the point. They're adding sound effects and doing that, and that just drives me nuts. That's just like I said, what I cannot stand about that. And there again, like I said, I bring it up about visual effects because, I mean, if we get something, you guys are all going to just say, well, it's bullshit. You're going to call us on it. And I mean, I understand. I mean, that's what's going to happen. But like I said, I'm more than happy to submit it to any experts. I know people who actually develop companies who will run the footage through, and they can tell you if it's been altered. And that's what the idea is.
In this community, the Bigfoot world, no matter what you put out, no matter what your profession is, you're going to get called a liar. You're going to get called a fake, a hoaxer. And just like you said, you got to get it to the right people that can put it through the stuff and prove that you're telling the truth. So it does not matter really what your profession is. If you get something good, you're going to be called. You're going to be called out on it. So.
Yeah, and definitely, like I said, I'm prepared for that. And like I said, we're upfront about it because, we don't want to hide it, because if people came in and we did it, oh, well, they're visual effects. No, I'll tell you, like I said, whether you believe me or not, I don't really care because, the cases and the incidents that I have, I know what I witnessed. I mean, same way with you guys, what you've encountered. You hate having to prove it to somebody. And I know there's a lot of people out there that don't feel like they want to prove it to anybody. But for me, it's more of a quest for knowledge. I want to know. I mean, I've been told you better be careful what you wish for because you might get someone upset. I mean, and the encounters and where I'm not feeling too frightened is that the two encounters that we had that were very violent sound, because when I got back to the cabin, we were telling it to the other people there what was going on, and I told Keegan to shut his eyes for a second. He had this basically almost like a baseball bat that he had fire hardened to use for the fire. Picked it up, walked over to one of the maple trees that he had on his land, and just hauled off and hit it as hard as I could. Had his eyes shut, and he goes, "Oh my God, that's what we heard." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. So what made that sound?" It was me taking basically a baseball bat and hitting a tree as hard as I could. And it was that specific crack. It's the crack. We've all been to baseball games. We've heard clack. We know that sound, of wood hitting something hard. So, that's kind of what, got us a little bit more intrigued about it. But what I was saying about that area is that last year I was in there moose hunting, and I did a moose call. And, I did the moose call, and went across the lake. And then across the lake, I heard a very light whack, whack. So it was a very light wood knock, and it wasn't violent like the other ones that we had heard. It was almost in response to what I called. I mean, my joke was my moose call is either really bad and it's a Sasquatch call, or I don't know what, but that's something I think, I'm mixed. I have mixed feelings about going out and doing wood knocking and doing calling. I personally don't feel that that's the way to do it. I think you have to let them come to you. They have to be aware that you're accepting them and you're, part of the, well, I don't want to say food chain, but you're part of the natural environment. So that's kind of how we're going to do it.
Yeah. And we as a group have talked a little bit about, and we have had people that will do calls out in the woods, and Walls and I have talked. I don't know that we're going to try to do calls anymore, because I think when we do a call, we're insulting their intelligence. They know that that's not another Bigfoot yelling back at them. They know it's just some dumb human hollering at them, trying to get attention. I feel like they know that. So I don't know how much good you get from going out in the woods and hollering. Tree knocks, no, we're going to continue to do those. I do think that some good could come from knocks because we as researchers, if we could, that's what we need to be doing is getting out there and trying to figure out what these things mean, because you said yourself a couple of different instances that you got two knocks, a couple of different times, two knocks. Well, what does two knocks mean? That's what we need to be out there trying to figure out. What does one knock mean? What does two knock means? What do three knocks mean? Everybody, all these researchers have their opinions, and some of them are probably right. They might know, but we need to all know. We need to figure out, you know?
Yeah. Well, that second one, in reply to my moose call, it was such a soft hit. It was just like, I wasn't frightened. I mean, but it was like, what was that? So, I mean, I stuck around for a while because.
Do you think that the soft might be from the distance away that it came, or he just barely hit?
It was a light. I mean, it was, it just didn't seem violent. I mean, it's just like if you had, two clubs and you did this, or you just hit the tree, just kind of a punk. That's what it sounded more like. I mean, when I first heard that one wood knock, I thought, I'll reply to it, and so I like tried to grab a branch I found on the ground and hit it, and it was rotted. So it's like, okay, so most of the fall, so that I looked around, it's like everything was on the ground was rotten. So it wasn't like, I could just pick it up and hit a tree. So you got to have something with you in a form of a club, which makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I'm out there. I mean, I'm carrying, a loaded firearm because there's freaking bears out there. If I go further up the area, there's grizzlies. So it's like, no, I'm protecting myself if I have to. And so if something's out there, I mean,
it could have been letting you know that something was there across, and he knew you was over there too.
Oh, it was definitely letting us know.
Because you're, like I said, the way you made the call for a moose, it could have crossed off and said, "Wait a minute, is that another Sasquatch over there? Or is that actual a moose?" And he probably was, if anything, probably was looking at you and said, "Okay, that's not a moose. We got to tell the other ones we got a hunter out here."
Yeah,
it could have been. I mean, that's an opinion. To me, that's what I'm getting out of that is they're letting you know, say, look, he's going to hear these knocks. It's going to be, don't make it aggressive. Maybe to spook him, testing you.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely, going up further up the valley. I had taken some photo. I have my big camera, so I've got a 400 millimeter lens on my Canon, and with an extender, it takes out to like 540 millimeters. So it's a big zoom lens. I mean, it's a professional lens, and I was up there and thought I saw some movement along the riverbank, and I stopped and hopped out and looked, and it turned out it was an elk, and it was just like standing there. It's like, oh, it's an elk, and then suddenly the whole herd of elk basically rose up out of the river bottom that I couldn't see, and kind of took off away from me. So I stood there for a while, did a moose call as well. That particular time, I was getting responses back of wolves further up the valley that they were replying to my moose call. So that was a little unnerving, but went up a little bit and found out on the river, the peninsula, there was the whole herd of elk, and they were in a circle. So a defensive perimeter, and they were all looking upriver. They weren't looking at me at that time. They were looking up the river at something, and I don't know what it was, because I eventually, got tired of taking photos of them and wanted to go on up the river. But that particular trip, as I was going up slow, and kind of something caught my eye up on the hill, and I found a cave. It was either a cave or there's an old mining thing up there. But Keegan and I went by to check it out. Keegan went up there the next year, but he didn't feel comfortable going in. But he said it looks like something's been going in and out of the cave. So that's the other thing. We're going to try to go up and do some investigation, put up some cameras around that cave, and see what else we can see up there.
Okay, we've gone about an hour and 10 minutes, so we've gone over a little bit. Marshall, good stuff, man. Thank you for coming on. This time got away from us, man. It's a really good talk.
Yeah.
Anything? I want to invite you back if you come up with anything else. I want you to stay in touch with me. Let me know how Quatch Trek is going. If there's anything that my group, that our group, Walls and I can do to help you, let us know.
Yeah. Well, no, that's good because like I said, I like to hear what's happening in the other areas. I mean, I like being up there because it is so remote. There's not people around, so people have said, "Oh, it's someone there monkeying with you." It's like, oh, you guys don't know where I am. It's not gonna have that way. One thing I did want to say, because I just got my T-shirt today, I did laugh about it, so I'd like to end with that. You can read it.
The Sasquatch. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, but I thought that was fitting that it came today in the mail.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'll definitely keep in touch. As we get more information and some stuff edited, we're going to kind of put it together. The promo that we've thrown out there that I think you and YouTube, it still has some stock footage in there. We're slowly replacing all that. But it's one of those things where we're going to try to take the approach of just going out and hanging out. It's BC. It's legal to smoke weed. We're going to have a campfire going. We'll be smoking, and maybe someone will come up next to us and want to toke with us or something. I don't know.
Never know. Never know.
But we'll definitely, we're taking the approach of we're not out searching for you guys. We're just, if you guys want it, if the Bigfoot, if the Sasquatch want us to come and join us and make themselves known, that's the approach we're taking.
That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. And in our opinion as a group, we think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
All right, Marshall. I appreciate it, buddy. Like I said, stay in touch, and you want to come back and talk some more, be glad to have you, buddy.
Okay. Thanks, guys. You take care, and everybody be safe out there.
Have a good night, buddy.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good show, buddy. What do you think about that?
That's pretty good. He got my tweak image that whatever that was, if it was a Wendigo or whatever it was, that was.
Yeah, it looked really, really similar to what Ken sent me. Ken King from Arkansas Bigfoot. Give them another shout out. Those are Ken and Rachel are really cool people. They were on our show the last 2 weeks, and it's really similar to what they're getting.
It kind of puts it out there in a way. It kind of puts that out there with the connection with the orbs and stuff like that. How
supernatural, the paranormal aspect.
It's somewhere.
You just don't know, man. I'm afraid we're never going to know in our lifetime anyway. Maybe we will, though.
That's right.
All right, buddy. Good show. Appreciate everybody coming out. We had all our regulars, and they even had a few people that I'm not that familiar with. Miss Paula, thank you, ma'am. Angela, thank you. They said Mary, thank you. Pappy and Scottish Wild Man, they're always here. Thanks, guys. And a bunch of others. I had my dad and my stepmom, Allison. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and hanging out with us for an hour and 15 minutes. We appreciate it. You got anything else before we go, buddy?
No, I guess not. I guess unless you guys, if y'all know anybody, let them get ahead of us or get in contact with us, and if they have encounters, let us know. We'd love to hear about it, and hopefully, maybe if it's long enough, big enough, we can get a good show. We'll bring them on board and let them talk if they want to. And like I said, of all our shows, we've all said, we'll keep, if they don't want to have their face or whatever, we can figure something out. They can be discreet, however they want to. We got ways of protecting people's anonymity that don't want their name, any of their info out there. We have ways of doing that. Head over to mannimalresearch.com and follow the links and just help us out, guys. Again, thank you to everyone that stopped by, and we will see you guys next week. Everybody be good to each other. Channel.
See ya.
See ya.